Hi there, my name is Michael Dabish. I'm a student at Michigan Technological University in the Health Informatics program, and today I'm going to talk about my final course project, which includes a security topic related to healthcare industry. Title here, 3,253,822 health plan members whose contents in AWS buckets were deleted. Before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about what cloud computing is. So it's on-demand availability of computer resources and systems. Can be hosted in many different locations, remotely, on-premise, allows the scalability of any applications to meet the demand of its users. So it allows anybody to use some sort of remote device, your phone, laptop, to then connect to a cloud service like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and ask them to rent resources. So you can spin up a Windows machine in the cloud and you can control it remotely. You can set it up so that it's connected to different networks of other cloud computing resources, and you can make these things publicly available. So some statistics on cloud vendors, Amazon in the United States anyways, and this is from 2019 RightScale State of the Cloud Report. In the healthcare industry, there's a pandemic that happened recently, and it's still going on, and that caused a lot of businesses and especially healthcare facilities to act quickly to adopt cloud technology, so that way they can do their business as they would normally, just in this new remote world of working from home, patients not being able to come into the facility. So the revenue of global healthcare cloud computing market is expected to reach $52.3 billion by 2026, up from $11.59 billion in 2020, growing at a compound annual growth rate of 28.5% during that period. That's for all businesses. But yeah, the pandemic definitely accelerated cloud adoption. So there's a healthcare plan company called 2020 Eye Care Network, and they help you with your health insurance to get eye care, and they also expanded into audio hearing care. So they started using AWS, and they have resources now inside of AWS, particularly pertaining to healthcare information and patients' very personal, private information. So in January 2021, this company, 2020, reported to the FBI that data was potentially removed from the S3 buckets hosted in AWS, and all the data in the S3 buckets was then deleted. Big deal, all that data. So then they came out and said the network notified 3.2 million people who each have a plan with them that there has been a breach detected in the contents of the AWS buckets. The information that could have been subject to unauthorized access includes names, addresses, social security numbers, member identification numbers, date of birth, and health insurance information. It is a health insurance company after all. So what happened after the breach? The data was stolen and deleted. Could have potentially included information about some or all health plan members for whom it had records, the company 2020. 2020 has notified the relevant health plan subscribers believed to have been impacted as a result of this event. And upon completion of the review and verification of data, 2020 notified individuals and relevant regulators as soon as possible. So how did this happen in the first place? It appears that they could not conclusively determine what or which data had been accessed and possibly exfiltrated and what data had been deleted. But it sounds like it's all the data in the buckets, which is pretty scary because not only was the data downloaded, but they deleted all of it. So all records of any type of data that were in there that they may have not had other tabs. They have not backed up this data potentially. So they don't even know what they lost. That's pretty bad. And this is all healthcare data. So, really, who deleted the S3 bucket? Why? So nobody knows. There is theories that it was an inside disgruntled employee. He had access to the cloud, to AWS consoles, and had admin access to the S3 buckets, and downloaded everything and deleted it. Or it's possible that it was just mismanagement of the cloud infrastructure in general. And we'll talk about that more later. So let's talk about what an S3 bucket even is. So AWS has this thing called an S3 bucket, which is a public cloud storage resource available on Amazon Web Services. Simple storage service, an object storage offering. So Amazon, they allow you to have storage in the cloud that you can remotely connect to with your local machine, with other virtual machines in the cloud, and set up access based on a number of rules and policies that you set in the cloud. So it's just managed storage inside of Amazon Web Services. How can the S3 bucket have even been secured? So you can follow the principle of least privileges by only giving the users or permissions the necessary levels of access to do their job functions, and that's it. If somebody else that doesn't need access to do anything inside of the bucket, don't give them permission. You start by giving the least amount of privileges as possible. Monitor the resources, like logging your people who log in, people who make changes to the bucket. Having that information is very important, because in this case, somebody logged in, downloaded everything, and deleted it, and we don't know who it is. That's a big problem. And then use encryption to protect your data. In this case, it wouldn't have helped. They were able to get root admin access to the bucket itself. Is it even possible to know who deleted the data from S3? The short answer is yes, but they could have enabled a piece of software that we'll get into in the next slide. So, there's a lot of different ways you can empty an S3 bucket. You can use the S3 console, which you just go to the web page. You can use the AWS CLI from your terminal and do the same things as the web page. And then there's the SDK that allows applications to use an API to make changes or manage the S3 bucket. And then there's a lifecycle configuration setting as well. Now, this one I'm particularly interested in for this scenario because it's possible that it wasn't even a threat actor involved in this situation. Maybe there was no malicious intent. It is entirely possible that somebody accidentally put an automated delete all logic into AWS and unknowingly deleted everything. Maybe the logic was just download and delete, and maybe it just didn't get downloaded anywhere. We don't know those details, but I'm just speculating. So, possibly a mistake, possibly it was done intentionally. So what about the logs? I mentioned they could have had logs. They could have known what happened, who done this. So there is an Amazon service offering called CloudTrail Events, and it is specifically designed to give information on what happens with the S3 bucket at any given point of modifications, logging in. And you can see here there's a snippet on the bottom left of just what these records look like. It tells you the event version, when it happened, who the user was, their ID, username. So, whether the request was made with root or IAM user credentials. So we'll be able to know, was it a root user? Was it somebody, that a registered user? S3 CloudTrail could have also told us whether the request was made with temporary security credentials for a role or federated user, which would be important to know. Whether the request was made by another AWS service, like that Cloud SDK we were talking about. So CloudTrail is the logging solution for S3, and they did not have this enabled. They would have had all of this information had this been enabled. So there was a class action lawsuit that was filed. So somebody clearly thought all of this could have been avoided. In behalf of everybody, that the 3 point whatever million people that were affected, they filed. The 2020, the worst thing I think was from the beginning the failure to comply with the HIPAA industry standards for cybersecurity. This data should have been de-identified. There should have been least privileges. There's no way that this should have happened. So there was 7 different claims for relief inside of the class action lawsuit. Negligence, unjust enrichment, invasion of privacy, definitely invasion of privacy, breach of implied contract, which in the contract it says your data should be secured, it's HIPAA compliant, breach of fiduciary duty, breach of confidence, and then there's a Florida Unfair Deceptive Trade Practice Act, because this company is based in Florida. So the unjust enrichment one, I'll just read off a couple of allegations here. Defendant benefited from receiving plaintiffs and class members' PII and PHI by its ability to retain and use that information for its own benefit. Defendants understood this benefit. Yeah, it's clear. Like you had the foresight to know that all of this data would be put in this bucket and it'd be under your control. Defendants also understood, the defendants, we're talking about 2020, the company, also understood and appreciated that plaintiff and the class members' PII and PHI was private and confidential, and its value depends upon defendant maintaining the privacy and confidentiality of that PII and PHI. So there's a lot of allegations, rightfully so, inside of this class action lawsuit. And in the end, it really came down to 2020 had no business moving to a cloud production server with the type of security policies they had in place. There was no effort put into logging. There was inadequate access control. They don't know who did it. So it's clearly access control. It was not a strong point for them. HIPAA compliance was never even achieved. They didn't de-identify information, and they didn't have any backups. This is not good. They still don't know what happened, and I agree with the lawsuit. I think all of the allegations, most of them anyways, are very clear violations of privacy, and I think the 3 million people should be compensated for that. Okay, thank you for listening and watching this presentation. And here I have the works cited in this presentation. Have a good day. Thank you.